Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Mega Man playthrough from me. I'm so happy to be playing the classic NES games again. I've played X1, X2, and I've played 01 for the channel, but now it's time to go back and continue with the NES games. Next up is Mega Man 5, aka Rockman 5 Proto Man's Trap in Japan. Yeah, I'm still using those Japanese ROMs because I can't be bothered to get the American ROM online, but don't worry, it'll be fine. The plot of this game is that Dr. Light has seemingly been kidnapped by Proto Man, but if you know anything about Mega Man games, you probably already know something's up with this plot, because how could Proto Man be evil? We only met him 2 games ago, and he's been... well, actually, he's been very mysterious in that time, so maybe there is something up with him. We don't know. We're just gonna jump in and go straight to the first stage, Starmans Stage. Now, this stage has lowered gravity for the entire duration of the stage. Instead of going with a water level like they normally do, they just made a stage where the gravity is lower because you're in space. And I think that's a pretty cool idea, but it does raise the question of where we actually are. Are we on like some kind of moon base or something? Nah, I guess that would be pretty interesting. So, you've already noticed by now that the charge shot has changed for Mega Man 5. It now has a much bigger hitbox, and it goes right through enemies. It does not stop for anything, unless it can't kill the enemy in one hit. This is a much improved version of the charge shot over Mega Man 4's, which had a tiny hitbox and the mid-charge shot wasn't that good. The changes to the charge shot are overall positive, except for 2 things. One, you cannot charge while sliding. This was very annoying for me to work with. If you slide in the middle of charging up, then the amount of charge you have is going to freeze until you are no longer sliding. Then it continues charging up. And the other annoying thing is that if you get hit while you have charge, you lose all of that charge and you have to start over. Yeah, very annoying to deal with. I think they changed back to Mega Man 4 charge mechanics in 6, I'm not really sure. But who knows, I'll probably be playing it again soon. Now, Mega Man 5 itself, it tends to be rated very low by fans. I think Mega Man 4 just set the bar really high for a lot of people who actually bothered playing it and weren't turned off by the charge shot, go figure. But yeah, one thing I'll say about Mega Man 5 is that the weapons that you get in this game are seriously weak. They're way underpowered compared to their predecessors. They're not fun to use. Well, not as fun to use. You can still get some enjoyment out of them. But I still think Mega Man 5, despite all of that, is actually a pretty good Mega Man game. The difficulty is also lower, but that's fine too. I still think it's a pretty solid game. I kind of had to play through it for practice purposes to really appreciate it, but yeah, it still ends up being a solid title, despite not being as well designed as previous games. So this is Starman. All he really does is jump around and shoot a barrier weapon at you. That's another thing about Mega Man 5. The bosses have very simplistic patterns and are very easy to avoid. In Mega Man 4, there were bosses like Pharaoh Man and Ring Man who are still challenging in spite of how simple the pattern is. But in Mega Man 5, it's very easy to learn the patterns, very easy to dodge attacks. Like, if you practice it long enough, of course. A first-timer might struggle a little bit, but yeah, that's Starman defeated. We actually get 2 items from him. We get the Star Crash weapon, which is what you just saw him use against us. It is a barrier that you can fire, much like Leaf Shield. And we also get the Super Arrow, which is basically the an improved version of Item 2. Mega Man 4 had an improved Item 1, and now we're getting an improved Item 2. The improved Item 2 is very good for speedrunning because it goes very quickly, but both the Star Crash and Super Arrow have ammo problems, which I will talk about when I actually start using them. But now, we're in Gravity Man Stage. We went from a low gravity stage to a stage based around reversing the gravity. And this is actually a really cool stage gimmick. I like it a lot. The only problem is that they never use it in any of the Fortress levels, so I think that's unfortunate. They probably could have put a section in the Fortress level that uses reverse gravity. And of course, they're never going to be able to use this in Mega Man 6 or anything else, because, like, I mean, there's no Gravity Man in those games, so we're never gonna have, like, a gravity-based stage. Like, the only time they bring back the gravity-based mechanics is in Network Transmission, which, yeah, they weren't exactly put to as good use in that game. And we have a spike pit off to the left that nobody has ever fallen into ever. Seriously, who actually fell into that spike pit as a kid? I'm sure there's somebody who did at least once.
Anyways, not much else to say about the stage besides the gravity mechanics being interesting.
That big enemy is much easier to slide under than any other big enemy in the series. So yeah, the low difficulty strikes again. Also, I've picked up the second of the 8 letters. The 8 letters are a new thing for this game. You can find one in each of the 8 stages, and if you collect them all, you get a new partner, actually. Not a weapon, a partner. Well, sort of. I guess it counts as a weapon. But yeah, they've added a new partner character in addition to Rush, which is actually pretty cool. Anytime they do that, it's nice. I like having robot companions. Makes me feel special. Alright, so Gravity Man. Gravity Man is another example of a very easy pattern. It can be a little difficult to get down if you try and play this the way I am. See, he switches the gravity very often and will often try to collide into you and shoot at you. So the way to deal with this is to just let off the charge shot with a correct timing, and if you are good at judging distance, then this is very, very easy. If not, then you'll have a little bit of trouble with it. Because you don't even need to jump for any of this. No real reason to jump, since you just have to let go of the charge shot when the timing is just right. So the weapon we get from Gravity Man is the gravity... what is it called? The gravity hold? That's kind of an interesting name for it. But it is the screen clearing attack, like we had with Rain Flush in the previous game. Unfortunately, Gravity Hold is not nearly as good as Rain Flush, because not only does it... well, it does damage to everything, and then if it kills something, they will fly up into space, which can be really hilarious. But the amount of damage done is so low that it really only takes out very small enemies in one hit. It still has its uses, and we will see that, and it also has an annoyingly low ammo count. Ammo is, yeah, there's a lot of annoyingly low ammo counts in Mega Man 5. But anyways, we are on to Gyro Man Stage, which is not based on sandwiches, but that thing on top of helicopters. Yeah. I had to make a sandwich joke at some point, right? Alright, so like with Airman Stage, we have a lot of bottomless pits and a lot of aerial movements. A decent stage except for one obstacle later on, which I will point out. Like, it'll be obvious what it is, I think. Alright, so that was a pretty slick jump. I did not expect to get through there with no damage, so that's pretty cool. And we have chickens in the air. Well, they are birds, so I guess this is appropriate for the stage. They shoot out eggs that jump over walls. And I think here, yes, I'm going to try the gravity hold here to get across these platforms without taking very much damage. And I don't really think I needed to waste a gravity hold on that single enemy, but using it on this screen is much more cost-effective. And moving on, we have... what's in this part of the level? Oh, a lot of cannons and a lot of enemies that can be taken out with gravity hold. You see that I had to use gravity hold 2 times to get rid of the cannons. That can be kind of an annoying thing, having to use so many gravity holds just to wipe the screen clear of all the enemies. And here we have a falling block section. What's annoying about this... oh, here's a good use of gravity hold again. But in order to get that letter, you don't have to lose a life. If you are very quick on the draw, you can jump out of there before falling to your doom. But I'm just, you know, it's hard to just get it on the first try. So I just decided, okay, I'll grab the letter and then just lose a life, because the checkpoint is right there, and we will move on to the annoying trap that I mentioned. Look at this. Now, this doesn't look so bad at first, but there is a section coming up at the top here where you have to slide under the spikes very, very swiftly. If you do not get the timing on this right, you are going to crash into the spikes and lose a life and be sent back to the falling blocks. Now, I'm sure there's an easier way to do that to make it all consistent and stuff, but I've never really learned it. So here's Super Arrow. It is a very obvious item 2 knockoff that lets you just fly over everything. But you can actually make multiples of them on the screen at once. And this is Star Crash, by the way. Very low power barrier weapon. But the Super Arrow can be placed on the screen multiple times as long as you have ammo. But ammo is constantly draining from the thing as long as it's on screen. So it can be a bit annoying to use, but it's a nice item, I would say. Gyro Man's got a simple pattern. When he's on the ground and fires the gyro attack at you, it will turn upwards to hit you. And if he goes into the sky, he will fire 1 gyro attack before landing on top of you. So as long as you keep that in mind, It's a very easy pattern to get down, although I'm having a little bit of trouble with it this time because I'm trying to let off the fully charged charge shots at the exact moment they become available, which can be a bit difficult to get down, and I almost died to him, but yeah. The gyro attack is the weapon that we get from him and is the only decent weapon in the game. It is basically a magnet missile, but you can control when it turns, so it's actually really, really good. And it does a lot of damage and it has a lot of ammo, probably the most ammo out of any weapon in Mega Man 5. So yeah, great weapon, and for killing Gyro Man we get Rush Jet again. Kind of redundant considering that we have Super Arrow, but depending on how you use Super Arrow, it could be drained of ammo completely. That'll be important for the Fortress levels. Almost slipped and spoiled the ending. Alright, so now we're in Crystal Man Stage. I have no idea where this could be if it's on Earth. But anyways, it starts with some weird ball enemies. Be sure to shoot the ball itself if you don't want it to be bouncing around like crazy. Now, Crystal Man Stage has a very annoying trap in it, like Gyro Man Stage, but there's a way to make this a lot easier. These falling crystals are what I'm talking about. It can be very difficult to predict when they're going to come out of the holes, but if you use the Star Crash, then you can shield yourself from them. And you don't even need to worry about wasting ammo, because if you fire the Star Crash, but then screen transition before it touches anything, then you don't use up the ammo for the Star Crash. And it's good to have the gyro attack here because it takes out these Crystal Joes in one hit. Just gotta time it right, and you will hit them when they are able to be damaged. I guess you could say that the Crystal Joe is much like the Hammer Joe from Mega Man 3 in that it's a very annoying enemy to defeat because you have to wait for it to become vulnerable, but the way they're placed in Crystal Man Stage make me think that they wanted to give you every opportunity to use your special weapons, or at least just gyro attack, which is also useful against this enemy here. I guess he was polishing the spike pit for some reason. I guess a lot of guys fall down there and get crushed by it. Anyways, I accidentally activated that platform, but I just used the Super Arrow to get up here because the Super Arrow also sticks to walls when it hits a wall, so that's very useful as well. It's not only an item too, it stops when it hits a wall and sticks to that wall and there's a free E-tank, which also saves you ammo because the Super Arrow only uses up ammo when it's in motion. Very nice item, very useful, and very, what's the word? Versatile, that's the word. Speaking of versatile, Rush Coil also changed. It is now a springboard that you have to bounce off of, which annoyed a lot of people because it was a change from the previous two games with Rush Coil, and they actually switched back to the old Rush Coil in Mega Man 9, so there's that. And I've picked up another letter. You have to be very swift in order to catch that letter. We also picked up a new item in a previous part of the level. It is the M-Tank. The M-Tank will not only refill your energy meter, but also all of your weapon energy, so that's very helpful. Definitely good to have one going into the Fortress levels where energy does not refill. You can only hold one at a time though, and I'm pretty sure that the other M-Tanks throughout the game don't even spawn if you are already holding an M-Tank, so they don't want you to metagame by using an M-Tank and then picking up a free one. So this is Crystal Man. He lags the game with this crystal attack that fires off a bunch of crystal balls into the air, but he does jump around a lot, so you've just got to be ready to let loose the charge shot when he lands. Overall, not a very difficult boss. He's got a basic projectile in addition to the Crystal Eye, which is the weapon we're going to get from him. The Crystal Eye is a lot like the Gemini laser from Mega Man 3, in that you have to know exactly where to fire it in order for it to be useful. Otherwise, it's just a projectile that goes in a straight line. Fortunately, in Mega Man 5, you can pause the game to erase all projectiles that you fired on the screen in order to switch to a new weapon or fire the Crystal Eye again, or whatever you want. His weakness is the gyro attack, and I have been doing these bosses in the weakness order in spite of the fact that I am only using the weaknesses against them in the refights, just like in Mega Man 4. Anyways, we have a controversial stage coming up. This is Napalm Man Stage, and according to sources, and by sources I mean one Gaijin Goomba video, I can't really find any other videos about this, but apparently Mega Man 5 was either never released in Vietnam or was banned in Vietnam, and this stage is the reason why. It very much looks like a Vietnamese jungle. This tiger enemy is based on a species of tiger found in Vietnam that is actually an endangered species, by the way. And you've also got a lot of allusions to Vietnam War stuff, like the tunnels, the traps in the tunnels, the hidden weapon caches, and this trap, by the way, can be dealt with a fully charged charge slot. If it hits you, it's a one-hit kill. And also, you've got the boss himself, who is named after a chemical weapon that is, it really brings up a lot of bad memories for people who are in that war. So, either it was banned in Vietnam or they didn't want to release it in Vietnam. And Napalm Man was also not used in the Mega Man cartoon, despite being featured in trailers and the intro. So that's interesting. A very interesting bit of history that I would love to find a source that elaborates on it further. But anyways, moving on with the stage itself, that guy apparently decided I wasn't worth killing and flew off the screen. Yeah, let's get into the non-political fun stuff now. So those tigers, apparently, oh yeah, I flubbed here because I forgot that you can only have 3 super arrows on screen at the same time. So we're going to use Rush Jet instead. Same as Mega Man 4, still very useful for flying over stuff you just don't want to bother dealing with. And there's the very easily found letter for the stage. They spell out Rockman 5 in this version, but in the American version they would definitely spell out Mega Man 5 instead. Lucky it's the same number of letters. Can you imagine if it were something like Superman or like Batman or just like a different number of letters? What would they do? I've also heard that in the European versions, the 5 at the end is actually a Roman numeral 5 instead of the number 5. But I don't really know. I would have to verify that for myself. We haven't even picked up that particular letter. Oh, it was in Crystal Man Stage. Okay. So, moving on with the rest of the stage, we have an annoying, like, enemy that pops out of the bottomless pit. Like, that's just trying to trap you. Like, take you by surprise. It's like that enemy from Dustman's level. So anyways, ignoring the tanks in the background, we are now fighting Napalm Man himself, who does not use the weapon he's named after, thank goodness. Would it even work on Mega Man? He's a robot. Also, very easy pattern here. You just dash under the straight shots, and then you avoid the bombs that he fires, and then slide under him when he jumps. Nice and simple. I could do this all day long. His weakness is the crystal eye because crystals, I guess the crystal ball plugs up his cannon? I don't know. Some of these weaknesses don't make any sense. So the weapon we got from him is the Napalm Bomb, which fires a very slow-moving bomb that bounces along the floor and is very difficult to use, but it's got a lot of ammo, and its attack power is kind of okay. So, okay-ish weapon. Not the worst thing in the world. It's just something that you have to find very specific situations in order to use it well. Next up is Stone Man. I guess Rockman versus Stone Man, Rocks... We are Rockman, something. So yeah, this stage starts out with Meteors that split into 3 little Meteors. That's very interesting. And they all have an equal chance to drop the same kind of items that the big one does. And speaking of which, I haven't mentioned it yet, but this game, Mega Man 5, one of the things it's infamous for is that it, for some reason, gives you a lot of 1-ups. Enemies just drop 1-ups a lot. Oh, and this is worth complaining about, by the way. How are you supposed to figure out that this letter is here? You would have to, like, shoot at the wall, and I don't know, you would have to just conveniently shoot at that wall. So yeah, this game drops an abnormally large amount of 1-ups for you. I think that's a problem with the game. Maybe they coded the random number generator incorrectly. I don't know. So yeah, those hidden walls that you have to, like, conveniently know that you can shoot the buster at them in order to blow them open. The thing is that there are 2 more in the stage. So, and like the letter is in the first one that you come across, so it's like, why didn't they maybe put it in the 3rd one that you come across? So that maybe you have the opportunity to discover the fact that there are, in fact, hidden walls that you can blow through in the first place. Oh yeah, and the little Meteor free 1-up. I'm gonna get a lot of 1-ups in this run. Just you wait. I'm gonna use a lot of them too because I'm out of practice. I mean, I've been practicing for this run, but it's still not a game that I have the most amount of experience with. No, sir. So yeah, here's the second wall you can blow through. But the thing is that there's absolutely nothing in this one. Well, actually, you know what? I think the reason there's absolutely nothing here is because there would have been an M-Tank there. but I have an M-Tank already, and as I've said, I think that if you have an M-Tank, then it causes other M-Tanks throughout the game to just not spawn at all. So I think that was the problem. There was probably an M-Tank in there. Still, to blow open that wall and find nothing behind it is a little disappointing, wouldn't you say? Alright, so we have a snowy mountain background. Apparently we're out of the construction site that is mandatory for Mega Man games. There's always a construction site, unless it's for... I don't know. I think construction sites are kind of a Mega Man thing because of all the Met tools, or Met tours, or I don't know. I'm out of things to say. I'm just going to jump over this guy and move on to the next area, which has another 1-up. This one is hidden similar to the E-Tank in Napalm Man Stage, but you've got to use Rush Coil to get up here and get in. About the springboard Rush Coil, there's really no advantage to using the springboard, or like having the springboard versus the Rush Coil that you had in the previous Mega Man games, so I don't really know why they changed it. It doesn't make a huge difference. Alright, so we have an E-Tank that you've got to be quick on the draw to get to. Just leap off that platform and get up there. And then you can either use the Rush Jet to get across here, or you can use Super Arrow, and if you do not have Rush Jet or Super Arrow, you can backtrack in order to respawn the platforms. Hey look, another 1-up! Thanks, Eddie! Or Flip Top, or whatever you are. I'm going to blow through this wall and waste time seeing what's behind it. Even though we have the letter for the stage already. And yeah, it's really just more weapon energy and a large energy capsule. I guess that's kind of nice to find. By this point, if you figured out that the hidden walls are there, then you should definitely be rewarded for blowing through another one. The gravity hold will actually take out not only the Meteors, but also all the little Meteors along with it. Kind of interesting. In fact, now probably would have been the time to use it. Because for some reason I refilled gravity hold and we're already at the boss, so I have no idea what I was doing there. This fight is going to be a bit embarrassing for me because it drags on a little bit. Stone Man is pretty much this game's Toad Man, I would say. Like, I guess if I'm judging based on how easy they are, then they're all Toad Man, but like, this is just, he just jumps around a lot like this, and when he crashes into the ground, he's invulnerable for a short period of time. So the key to dealing with this quickly is to hit him with the charge shots when he is in the air. Always go for aerial attacks and not ground-based attacks. And he has this attack, which is the most useless weapon in the game, but we'll get to that after we beat him. So yeah, somebody did not program this guy with the best AI or pattern in the world. Who do we know who makes incompetent robot bosses? Oh well. So the weapon we get from him is Power Stone. That was my favorite fighting game growing up. No, I'm just kidding. Power Stone is one of the most infamous weapons in the whole series. Like, it's right up there with Topspin and Spark Shock, but even those have their uses compared to Power Stone, which sends out 3 rocks in a circular pattern that is very annoying to hit enemies with. Like, most of the time, it just misses. And even against Charge Man, who is weak to Power Stone, it's still very hard to hit him with it. Really awful. One of the worst weapons in the whole series. So, moving on to Charge Man Stage, I have no idea why he's called Charge Man, because the level is about trains. You couldn't go with Train Man, or Caboose Man, or Conductor Man, I don't know. But Charge Man Stage, it has a neat pun though, because the Meteors are now Metros. Because they've got cute little trains. It's so adorable. Those Meteors are so cute. Why do we keep having to blow them up? I want this to be like Battle Network 3, where you can actually recruit Meteors to fight for you. Anyways, we have more chickens and rats in the train level. Not sure what the idea here is here. Those rats really remind me of the rat enemy from Battle Network. They're just as annoying too, because you actually can't hit them with, like, if you're level with them, you can't hit them with the regular bullets. It has to be a charge shot, because the charge shot's hitbox is big enough to blast them. Thanks, good old Mega Man 5 charge shot. Now, stop hitting me so I can actually charge up and hit you. Here's another very easy to acquire letter. Really, the only letter that's annoying to find is the one in Stone Man Stage because of how secret it is. The other ones are out there in the open. Some of them may take a couple of extra tries to get, but Oh, by the way, that spike pit off to the left, I have no idea why it's there. Nobody has crashed into those spikes either. And there's nothing off to the left either, so don't bother trying to fly over there. So yeah, this train level. It's like every Mega Man series has to have a train level at some point. You've got Charge Man, you've got Slash Beast from X4, there's that train stage in 01, and I think that's all of the train stages. Well, Charge Man shows up in Battle Network 6, so there's that too. But I don't think he had a train stage specifically. Anyways, I'm just getting my free one up here, and now we are moving on to Charge Man, and you may have noticed, but I'm also abusing the magic of video editing because I have died to these guys on occasion. Charge Man is a bit more difficult than the other bosses because he never jumps, so there's no opportunity to slide under him. You have to repeat this very weird pattern over again. Just watch out for him dashing into you, and then shoot him when he's walking. You can only shoot him when he's just walking, which is very strange. But yeah, when you have the pattern down, it's very easy, aside from the fact that it can be difficult to avoid those shots if you are backed into a corner, and you have to be able to jump over him too, so gotta time that jump right. The weapon we get from him is very interesting. It is the Charge Kick. Yes, it is a melee combat move that changes your slide into a kicking attack. And I love the creativity here, and it even gives you invulnerability frames while you're doing it, but again, the areas that you're allowed to use it in are very, very, like the areas that you're allowed to use it in and have it be effective are very rare throughout the game. It can be used somewhat in Wily Man Stage, in fact it's Wily Man's weakness, but you're also likely to crash into Wily Man himself when the invulnerability period ends. One of the reasons Charge Kick is good is because you can dash through these water pistons without, those aren't water pistons, what am I saying? You can dash through the water without getting hit. So yeah, Charge Kick would be a lot better if you could use it in the air, because I think that would just lead to a bunch of interesting creative jumps you can make. There is in fact a ROM hack of Mega Man 5 that makes it so you can dash in the air. It's called air sliding or something, and that really helps Charge Kick. So, an interesting weapon idea. Unfortunately, it didn't end up being super useful. And this room is so annoying to me. I don't really like doing it, even though I've pretty much got it down pat. One of the reasons it annoys me is because they recycled it completely in Mega Man 9 with Splash Woman Stage. Yeah, you guys could stand to create more interesting, creative level design ideas instead of just recycling something from Mega Man 5. Oh boy. If I ever get to Mega Man 9, then I will just have a lot to talk about with that game. So I use the energy tank there, mostly by accident, actually. I accidentally used the energy tank, but I don't want to take any risks in this section. It's a very annoying section because you can't use charge shots and you can't shoot to the left. You are only able to shoot to the right, which means you have to jump over the enemies coming up behind you. And what's worse is that they place the letter in the midst of one of these water skiing sections. I gotta love the parallax scrolling, it's actually pretty cool. And another really nice thing is, because I managed to fix the video editing, or not the video editing, I fixed the video recording so that the water graphic does not cause the video quality to get screwed up, so that's nice. I figured out how to do that finally. So this section has the letter in it towards the end. You just gotta make a very swift jump. I feel that if you like stay in one place, like in a certain sweet spot, and then just keep firing, you'll have most of the enemies dealt with before they can even get to you. And then you just have to watch for any enemy behind you that you have to jump over. So yeah, you've got dolphins, you've got the Joes, you've got the letter, which is right there. When the two dolphins show up, that's your cue to jump for the letter, I suppose. Very interesting way to signal that the letter is coming. And then we have... this movement is forced, by the way. It's a total cutscene. And we just have one single cannon enemy before the boss door, so let's demonstrate our new ally. This is Beat, and he's completely failing to hit the enemy. Yeah, the idea behind Beat is that you can summon him and then he will fly towards an enemy and hit them, but he always goes for projectiles instead of the boss. So you've got, not the boss, the enemy. Now we're at the boss. This is Wave Man. He can create water spouts that block your shots, and he can also shoot a very single lane projectile at you. I'm messing up my words. Don't you just love commentary that just goes on and on with no breaks? I think it's fun because, you know, the spontaneous, what's the... I don't remember what the word for it is. I guess that's, improvise. I have to improvise all of my commentary, and that is very fun because it results in hilarious things. So yeah, Wave Man's pattern can be a little bit difficult to learn, but there you go. Nothing like the Wave Man from the Mega Man 3 on DOS. That Wave Man was really awful. So we get the Water Wave from him, which is a weapon that works kind of like the Bubble Lead. It shoots out 3 water waves that travel along the ground. Unfortunately, you have to be standing on the ground in order to fire it, and its ammo count is very low. So yeah, yet another really bad weapon in Mega Man 5, the game of bad weapons. So finally we're at Proto Man's castle, which is shaped like his head, of course. It would be. And I want to point out, by the way, that most of Mega Man 5's music isn't super impressive to me, even though the sound quality keeps going up, but there are some really great themes in Mega Man 5, and this is one of them. Like, very nice castle theme. And Gravity Man Stage was a lot of awesome fun, too. Really great song. Alright, so, moving on. This castle's got a lot of strong enemies to start off with. I'm taking quite a bit of damage here. So I'm going to use the Rush Coil instead of the Super Arrow. You gotta conserve your ammo yet again because, of course, the castle stages do not restore your weapon energy between them. Not like in Mega Man X. I always wondered why X made that change. It's not like you seriously need the special weapons in the X games. Alright, so I'm just going to use Gravity Hold, and we have a mandatory Rush Jet and or Super Arrow segment. And you can also use Rush Jet as a simple little platform if you want to just jump on him once to get over something, and you don't want to waste the super arrows or anything. Oh yeah, seeing all of those enemies reminds me of another weird quirk of the M-Tank. If you are already full on all energy and weapons, then using the M-Tank will cause all enemies on screen to turn into 1-ups, as if you needed any more 1-ups. And that particular enemy that I use the Gravity Hold against, that's one of the best places to try that trick if you want to get a lot of 1-ups. But you never really need that because there are so many 1-ups in the game already. And you can bypass things like the disappearing bricks. Why are these back again? Why are they so popular? Oh well, at least you have Rush Jet and Super Arrow, which can be used to skip it very easily. That was nice. That was nice, that thing I did just now. Alright, so I gotta play conservative with the weapon energy, because of course we have the boss rematches coming up at the very end, but I think that's when I will use the... What are those 2 enemies flying around me? They're completely failing to do any sort of damage. Alright, so this boss is called Dark Man. There are 4 Dark Men throughout the fortress. And this first one is weak to Water Wave and only travels along the ground, so it's very easy to hit him with Water Wave. Just be careful not to let him run into you, because then it'll be very difficult to avoid his shots. So yeah, Water Wave is his weakness, very easy to deal with if you use it. In fact, you'll probably use up all your Water Wave energy on him at that point anyways. Yeah, at this point I'm definitely thinking that I'm gonna need that M-Tank right before the boss rematches. So moving on to the second stage of Proto Man's castle. What is this stage? What do we got here? What do you got from us? Or what do you got for us, Proto Man? Alright, so we have ladders, and we have basic enemies. I guess you could get hit in the back by that guy. And we have another mandatory Rush Coil usage. Not sure what the point of the mandatory Rush Coil usage is. Because if you're out of energy, then wouldn't you have to, like, farm for more energy? That would be really annoying if it had to happen, but then again, like, it's such a very small number of players who would actually have that happen to them, and I'm just trying to fill dead air until we get to the annoying part of the stage that I just remembered. Do not fall down without going down the ladder, because you will hit the spikes. And now you've got to deal with a spiked ceiling on top of a very annoying enemy that does a lot of damage. but fortunately you can get rid of them with the gravity hold. And then it's just a matter of making some well-timed jumps and not accidentally running off of these conveyor belts. But I've used up all of my gravity hold energy, so I hope we don't run into another section like that again. And now we are going to use Gyro Attack to get rid of these guys, same as in Crystal Man Stage. Very nice to be able to deal with them that way. I hope people actually know that Gyro Attack takes them out in one hit. Gyros versus crystals, I guess there's some kind of logic behind that. I'm going to keep using Gyro Attack against some of the enemies here, even though it's not really necessary. And there's another free E-Tank if you are quick on the draw, because you have to slide under here and then very quickly turn back after getting the E-Tank to not run into the spikes. I guess that's an okay E-Tank to get, but, you know, it's not really that difficult for somebody like me to get it. Alright, so there's a 1-up if you want to spend a super arrow to get it, and then we have more enemies from Starman Stage that are taken out in one hit with a Gyro Attack. And, I guess I should be conservative with this because Gyro Attack is a boss weakness in one of the later Fortress stages. So I'm going to use it against them in order to get the life energy upgrade. And is this where I use Crystal Eye? No, Charge Kick? Not Crystal Eye, of course. Why would I use Charge Kick there? That would be just silly. So yeah, due to the low power of most of the weapons, I usually just end up using the Buster anyways. Kind of unfortunate that a game ends up like that. I'm actually wondering what the guy who said the weapons in Mega Man 4 were useless was thinking. He was clearly thinking of Mega Man 5, but he got it confused with 4 somehow. Ah, that's just me dismissing someone else's opinion, don't worry about it. This is Napalm Bomb, by the way. I guess it's kind of okay if you want to trap the tigers with it. But then you would be killing off an endangered species of tiger, let me tell you. Alright, so this boss is annoying because of a shield that he has. Luckily, if you've got Beat, then this is nice and simple, because Beat bypasses the shield entirely, and it's his weakness. I think a lot of these Dark Men are weak against Beat, but I never found another weakness that worked quite as well. You'd think Power Stone would be a weakness, because I haven't even demonstrated Power Stone yet, but when you see it, you'll think, ah, that would have been nice if it was the weakness of the guy with the shield. Alright, so moving on to Stage 3. I think I remember Stage 3. It has... oh yeah, it has a reference to Super Mario World, which had just come out at the time. So that'll be nice. I'll point it out when we get to it, of course. So it's a nighttime space stage with a lot of Joes in the gyrocopters. I wonder what those were. I wonder why those were absent from Gyro Man Stage. Those would have been very appropriate enemies. And a large energy capsule so soon? How many hits do you think people would have taken in the previous area? Yeah, another thing that ends up making Mega Man 5 look like not as good a game as 4 is because the difficulty is very much lower. I have mentioned this already, but there are a lot of things contributing to the low difficulty of Mega Man 5. But I want to point out again that I think Mega Man 5 is a very solid entry into the series. It's just, like... I also think at this point that people were kind of getting tired of Mega Man because this game doesn't really do a whole lot to innovate compared to 4. I mean, there's not really any big new gameplay mechanic, and I know the Mega Man series is one that likes to not mess with a good thing. Like, if they completely change the gameplay without it being like a spin-off or something, then it would be kind of annoying. But there's not really anything super new going on. On the bright side, the game has the most refined gameplay out of the series so far, so that's nice too. Yeah, I just think it's a solid game, but it's probably like just another Mega Man when you get down to it. So moving on with the stage, we have another Rush Coil jump, and this is the reference to Super Mario World that I was referring to. Does this little block conveyor belt thing look familiar at all? I like the placement of this E-Tank. You have to get off of the platform in order to get to that E-Tank, potentially meaning you'll be stuck without any platform. Of course, you could fire a super arrow and then just fly all the way back to the platform, or just use Rush Jet, I don't know. But I ended up missing that E-Tank because I couldn't get the jump just right in time. So, No extra E-Tank for me. I'm pretty sure I don't really need it. Because there aren't a huge number of E-Tanks in Mega Man 5. Probably less than 4. But yeah, this is an actually tough section, by the way, because you have to get past that enemy with the shield before the guy behind you comes to get you. Unless you destroyed the guy already. Oh, and here's a free energy tank. I guess I was lying when I said there weren't as many E-Tanks as Mega Man 4. They're just in the fortress stages for some reason, and they give quite a number of them to you for free. That thing about free E-Tanks again. So now I'm finally going to use Power Stone, and it was actually doing good here. Well, except for there. So as you can see, the stones just fly off in a circle like that. Very hard to hit enemies like that with it. And the worst part is that you actually can't fire another Power Stone until all 3 stones have gone off the screen, but you can get around that by pausing and unpausing because that erases the stones. Here's a boss that I will fight with only the Buster because I couldn't find a weakness for him. Nothing was really doing all that much damage, so I just stuck to the Buster. He is annoying because he has an attack that stuns you, and it's basically like Bright Man. Or Vile, whoever you want to compare him to. I think he's a lot like Vile. So, you can sort of misdirect the little rings that stun you, like that, by jumping before he fires it, but actually he does telegraph it because his chest will light up before the rings are fired, so if you see him light up, just jump and then the rings should fly off into the sky harmlessly. So there you go. The final Proto Man stage is not very long, it's very easy to deal with. The trouble is the boss. Yes, so we should be able to see for ourselves what Proto Man is up to. But first we have to get through a very interesting stage gimmick idea. It is a collapsing room. If you destroy these blocks, then the room will collapse, and you've just got to make sure that it doesn't collapse on you, and that you can get to the top safely. So, in this part of the level, for example, you just want to shoot once, then slide past the spikes and shoot again. And in this area, you want to shoot once, slide underneath, and then you will be safe for the rest of it. Just destroy the rest of these, and we're good. We can slide under that overhang and then get right to the boss room. As soon as I'm charged up. Something's not right about that whistle, wouldn't you say? Ah, I'm hit! But I still have my charge on. That was a lot of damage just now. Weird. And there's nothing else in the stage to hurt you, so really, like, you weren't going to get damaged by anything else up until that point, so that's weird. I missed out on a joke I was going to make. I was going to make a Blues Brothers joke because the character is called Blues in Japan. So naturally, Proto Man, the Proto Man that was causing all of that damage and stuff was a fake Proto Man named Dark Man instead. Of course, I already spoiled that the previous 3 bosses were also called Dark Man. This Dark Man has all of the powers of the previous Dark Man, the shield, the stunning attack, everything. And beat would have been the weakness, but I unfortunately ran out of beat ammo. I have no idea how you can run out of beat ammo, but yeah. I eventually had to switch to the charge shot. If he does the attack where the shield splits up and attacks everything on the ground, then that's a very good opportunity to hit him. So be sure to let a charge shot off at that time, and hope he does that attack a lot. So yeah, to the surprise of absolutely no one, Dr. Wily was the bad guy all along. It was he who kidnapped Dr. Light, using Dark Man disguised as Proto Man. Yeah. Not an interesting plot point, but Dark Man is kind of an interesting character. He shows up in the Mega Man cartoon separate from Proto Man, and Proto Man was also a bad guy in the cartoon, which I guess means that the writers for the cartoon never finished this game. Well, there's your arbitrary Wily eyebrows moment. But this castle is lacking something. It lacks the little exhaust pipe on the right. That's such a tiny little detail, but you can see that on every Wily castle except this one. Alright, so the Wily stages, because we've got 4 more stages to go to. One of them will be the boss rematches, and hey, look, a free E-Tank! Again! I guess they figured you were running low on resources, but here we have another spike wall falling thing. That was completely unfair. Excuse me, I'm rewinding that because that was completely unfair. There was no way to know that the spikes would be on the right side like that. So dumb. Alright, so we got some basic enemies for the first actual part of the level. We climb up this ladder and we have a lot of cannons that fire one at a time and are very easy to dispatch. And then we move on and we have a scary section. We have a very low spike ceiling. You've really got to be able to tap jump if you want to get past this, or you could just get hit and abuse the invincibility frames if you're really that scared. Not that difficult for me though. Climbing up this ladder and we have a room with a bunch of enemies. Oh look, a free 1-up. I actually have lost quite a bit of 1-ups. It took me a couple tries to defeat Darkman, so yeah. And now we have conveyor belts over a pit. My favorite kind of conveyor belts over a pit is a conveyor belt over a pit. I'm out of things to say. It should be fairly evident what's going on at this point. Kind of annoying to get hit there, though. Probably could have done better. And now we have a callback to Dustman of all people, with a ceiling that constantly lowers and rises. And we have dust blocks that you have to destroy, or junk blocks, or whatever. And I think this section is a little bit better than the original Dustman segment because, I guess it's more fast-paced and you don't have to destroy a bunch of blocks. And there aren't really a bunch of blocks to destroy, so people who are OCD won't plow through every single dust block. This final section here is a bit scary though, because you have to slide through all of this and then not get crushed here, and then slide through a lot again and keep going to get into the next segment, which has a chicken. I hope you're not too chicken about this next area. I should really be refilling beat or something. Yeah, I just keep picking up these 1-ups, and I keep picking up these weapon energy capsules with the wrong weapon equipped. Like, I should really have gyro attack equipped so I can refill that instead. A little low on health, though. So, I'm giving Crystal Eye a day in the limelight, just because I can, and we move on to the boss. Probably going to save myself time by using an E-tank so that I don't have to die against this guy to get all my health back. And I'm just going to use the Buster against this guy. I don't really know what his weakness is, but it's an interesting gimmick boss. You have to shoot at those bottom segments in order to get them to move towards you. Then you can jump on them and shoot at the boss. Of course, you wouldn't be able to actually get up high enough to shoot at him if those segments weren't actually there, so I guess Wily was having an off day. He thought he should really give his rival, or his arch nemesis rather, the ability to actually defeat the bosses instead of just making the bosses impossible to defeat somehow. Like, really, the guy should have thought to fill an entire room full of spikes ages ago. Calling back to that Springman video from way, way back. That was so old and so long ago. I'm feeling nostalgic. I feel old when I play these games, but I also feel very nostalgic. And I hope you do too, watching this. So with only 11 minutes left in the video to go, we move on to Wily Stage 2, which is going to be an underwater stage, even though I just told you that they had no underwater stages because they just settled for lowered gravity, but I guess they wanted to put it in a water level at some point. Rush Marine has been kicked out of the series permanently, unfortunately, so yeah. Really sad to see Rush Marine go. It was kind of cool, but I suppose it was too situational to be actually useful, because they barely had any water in Mega Man 5 to begin with, so why bother programming that again? Hey look, a free E-Tank! How many is that now? There's more free E-Tanks here than in Mega Man 3! Alright, so some basic platforming, and then we have the classic Mega Man water level trope. Spiked ceilings, very low-hanging spiked ceilings, in order to get you to actually accidentally jump into them. Boy, my vocal cords feel tired at this point. I'm talking for so long. But that's the way it goes with these videos. These Meteors do not split into 3 little Meteors, by the way, so just shoot at them or use Gravity Hold or something. They're almost entirely recycled from Gyro Man Stage, come to think of it. And that's the end of the water section, so now we have Meteors that do split up into 3 little Meteors. and cause the game a lot of lag. Alright, so moving past these basic bad enemies, I did not know that they shot at you until I got hit by that guy right there. And it's a good thing I got that weapon energy capsule because I need some gyro attack. It's the weakness of this stage's boss, who should be coming up in a couple of screens. But the camera starts off all the way to the right for some reason. That's interesting. Or is the camera to the left? Whatever. Moving on, we have an enemy that you need to destroy, and then you have to use Super Arrow or Rush Jet to get up there. I don't really know what you're supposed to do if you're out of energy on both of those weapons, or utilities rather. And then we have a large enemy before the boss doors. This guy is weak against the gyro attack, and you can only hit him with when the little doors to his left and right open up. And in case you're having trouble getting up there to hit him, then you can use these floating platforms. Kind of reminds me of the final boss of X1. You can actually damage this boss with a gravity hold also, but it's very ineffective and not even his weakness. Still, it's hilarious to actually hit him with it, because it seems like you shouldn't be able to hit him with it, but you can. So moving on to Wily Stage 3. Wily Stage 3 is the boss rematches, and those are going to be played at double speed. In fact, I'm going to play through all of the bosses from here on out at double speed because they get brutally repetitive. Like, I'm sorry if you were looking forward to watching me do this at normal speed, but you can always slow down the YouTube playback if you want to. Another free E-Tank! What are they doing? They put the checkpoints right before the bosses like in the regular stages, so there's no real need to use the E-Tanks before you get there. Alright, so we have the boss rematches room, and we're going to use the M-Tank. This is also something that takes a while. It takes a while for the energy to fill up all the way, so I've started the double speed effect right now. And during this time, I would like to talk about the boss rematches in the Mega Man series, because after 01, after X2, I started to wonder if these were even necessary, because they seem to be like just a mandatory trope of the Mega Man games from here on out. But I get the feeling that the boss rematches are supposed to be like a test of your endurance and a test of how much better you are at the game, because the bosses that you started the game fighting against, they should be easy peasy when you get to the boss rematches, and they go by so quickly in this game in particular that, you know, it's kind of just a time waster. You can deal with them for sure because you have the weaknesses and everything now, but like, I don't know. Maybe they're not worth keeping around, at least not if they are not placed throughout the Fortress stages like they were in Mega Man 1 or X1 or, yeah. At the very least, they are a very decent endurance test in the Zero games because, like, you just have so little health in the Zero games, so that's really a test of what you're doing here. Yeah, so Crystal Eye against Napalm Man, you can see why the Crystal Eye is not really that great of a weapon. I mean, at least it came back to hit him several times. And I'm fumbling around this ladder for some reason. And we have Gyro Man. His weakness is the gravity hold, so you don't even need to aim this thing. Just make sure you don't hit him while he's invincible with it. And it takes up your entire energy meter just to kill him with it. And here's Power Stone against Charge Man. You will see me use the trick where you pause and unpause to get rid of your stones so you can fire another set. Really annoying that you have to do that. Definitely a sign of a very poorly designed weapon. I'm surprised they didn't come up with anything else for Power Stone. Like, they should have... Like, you would think that they would use it a couple times and think, oh, this is really not a good weapon, we need to change it, or we need to make more enemies weak against it. So here's the Wily machine. It's the worst Wily machine of all time, because all you have to do is wait for him to come down, pop in with a charge shot, and then wait for him to come down again. If he is over the spike pit in the center, then you move to the left or right. If he is on the far left or right of the screen, you just move to the other side of the screen. Very easy to avoid him. Very, very stupid boss. Wily, what were you thinking? Were you out of ideas for robots this time? Like, maybe you should improve on your old robots instead of just, like, I don't know, trying to come up with new ones for some reason. I mean, it's not like you need to be all that innovative when it comes to destroying Mega Man. Alright, so the final stage of the game. There's just 2 enemies between us and the final Wily boss, so we are going to skip one of them. That was a very slick jump. I did not expect to get it over that with no damage. But yeah, here is the final Wily machine of Mega Man 5. It is weak to the super arrow for some reason, and its attacks can be very difficult to avoid, so this actually is a decent boss. But yeah, I'll fire the E-Tank before facing off against the final Wily capsule. I hate this boss. It's so slow. Like, it takes so long for it to appear, and it has to appear at the bottom of the screen if you want to be able to shoot at it. So I just use Beat, who can actually see the Wily capsule before it even appears, and then damage it. You've got just barely enough Beat energy, if you come in here with full energy, to destroy it and take all of its health away. I think I made a couple of mistakes here because I got hit by the very easy to avoid attacks. Once you know how easy those are to avoid, it's very simple. So yeah, I accidentally used up all of my Beat energy there because Beat can hit the Wily capsule while it's still invulnerable, which is really annoying. But game over. We've beaten Wily. We're chasing him down, and for some reason he runs into the room where he was keeping Dr. Light. And we are going to save Dr. Light. Christmas is saved! I always knew the Mega Man games were about saving Christmas. What, you thought Dr. Light didn't look like Santa Claus? Oh well, I guess it was just me. Oh no, we're going to be crushed by the collapsing castle. I guess that was a load-bearing cage. Very strange. Ah, but what was that? Someone has come to our rescue yet again. And then they just make the rest of the wall collapse for some reason. Yep, it was Proto Man, and he's going to vanish completely off the screen instead of just gradually going down. Like, he just pops away. Ah. So that's Mega Man 5. That's the end of Mega Man 5. We are going to see the castrol of the Robot Masters and their designers, who are all Japanese still. But in Mega Man 6, they actually ran the robot design contest in Nintendo Power internationally, as well as just in Japan. So in Mega Man 6, we are going to see 2 of the first Robot Masters to be designed by international designers. And I don't think any other Robot Masters were designed by people outside of Japan. I think they just stopped running the contests outside of Japan. Which is neat because in the plot of Mega Man 6, the International Robot Design Contest actually plays into the plot of Mega Man 6 because the robots are designed from people all over the world in universe as well. So that, I think that's an interesting detail. So if I ever get to Mega Man 6, that's going to be a neat thing to see. Of course, you could just go and look it up on wikis anyways, but yeah. So that's the end of Mega Man 5. It was a very decent game in spite of being not as good as Mega Man 4 in my opinion, but very refined gameplay, very refined charge shot mechanics. Unfortunately, the weapons just weren't as fun to use, and the stage design, it was okay, but the bosses left a lot to be desired. They were very, very easy compared to the ones in Mega Man 4, and especially 3 and 2. So yeah, if this were a little bit harder and the weapons were a lot more fun to use, I think we would have yet another great Mega Man installment. The only problem remaining is that it doesn't really innovate as much. Like, you don't really need to change the Mega Man formula all that much, but people are going to get tired of the series if they are just doing the same thing over and over again, which is a weakness of most Mega Man titles. Like, even the X series and the Battle Network games, which I enjoy greatly, when you do the same thing over and over again, it can be difficult to play through them or justify yet another purchase when it's going to be the same thing over and over again. And that problem isn't really around anymore thanks to the Legacy collections giving you everything at once. So, that was Mega Man 5. I'm Ephraim225. I'm still waiting for these credits to end. We still have a little bit left to go. Next up is Mega Man 6, assuming I get in enough practice with that game in order to be able to play it competently. Otherwise, I will maybe think about going to X3. X3 is very, very hard, so I imagine I would do that one in segments instead of a 1-hour video like I've been doing for most of the Mega Man games at this point, and I definitely know it'll be a long time before I can play 0-2 competently on this channel. But that's the end of Mega Man 5. I'm Ephraim225. We are still presented by Capcom. See you guys for whatever I decide to work on next. Later, everyone!